We're about to start our study with a message of the book, Christian Agenda. With Jesus, renunciation will be a privilege for you. Suffering will glorify your life. Tests will expand your powers. Work will be a mark of confidence along your pathway. Sacrifice will sublimate your impulses. Bodily illness will be a beneficial remedy for your soul. Slander will honor your task. Persecution will be a motive for you to bless many. Anguish will purify your hopes. Evil will summon your spirit to the practice of goodness. Hate will challenge your heart to manifestations of love. The earth will all its contrast and unceasing renewals represents a blessed school of individual perfection in whose purifying lessons you will live selfishness crushed forever.
As we are about to start our study today, in this ambient prepared by the enlightened spirits, may we unite our thoughts, ourselves and all of those in the spirit who are with us, elevating towards the superior power, which is love in the universe. And as learners of ourselves, learners of the natural laws in life, may we start our meeting expressing our gratitude towards everything that we received so far in our evolution pathway. Thank you for this new existence for us while in the body. Thank you for the teachings of the enlightened beings who help us to comprehend ourselves on a psychological and emotional level as immortal beings as we all are. Also thank you for those who may be in spirit with us and also learning as we do, as we are all brothers and sisters in humanity. With our hearts full of joy for these unique and special moments in our existences, granted by the Creator for us to renew our conceptions, to change old ways of thinking, to actualize ourselves in renewing our thinking, expanding our consciousness. And in that way, we also express our gratitude for Jesus, our Master and Guide, the guide of humanity on earth. As we know already that we received a lot in order to be here, gathering in the name of the Creator, may we also initiate our meeting in a humble way and vibrate towards all of those who may be suffering in all kinds of emanating vibrations of peace. For those who may feel they are desperate, for those who are suffering, for those who may think to commit suicide, for those who feel lonely, may God bless them all. And may we all together continue to elevate ourselves so that we keep on tuning into the vibrations of goodness, of universal fraternity, solidarity, and goodness towards ourselves and towards each other. And united as children of God, immortal beings, under the law of love, we start our study today. So be it. Welcome all of us as we continue our study of the Spirit's book, which is a study on a weekly basis. We are all welcome to carry on also to bring our knowledge or doubts as we are all studying. We are on the final part of the Spirit's book, which is the fourth part, reflecting about the chapter Hopes and Consolations, future joys and sorrows and the duration of future punishments. Hopes and consolations refers to the idea as immortal beings as we are. Once we understand that we will not die, we are continuing, we are immortal, whatever happens to us, even if a dear one dies, we know that it doesn't die, only the physical body dies, but the spirit continues. And consolations, in case we go through hardships, in case we go through suffering, we know they are temporary. Sooner or later, we will free ourselves from that. And the purpose, the objective of the suffering for all of us is learning what we haven't learned so far. And we still are on the question 1009, which we have been reflecting last week, and it's a quite long reflections with different spirits, St. Augustine, Plato, Lamennais, which we are going through. I just read the question for us to bear in mind what we are studying and reflecting. The question 1009 is, does the punishment imposed are never eternal? And we have been thinking about and reflecting with the thoughts and the thinking of St. Augustine, Plato, and Lamennais, where we are informed there is no such an eternal punishment. There is no such eternal suffering, as we are all children of God, created with love. In order for us to grow and to evolve, sooner or later we will learn also to love, and we are always loved by dear ones who are with us in any situation that we may find ourselves. So today we carry on still with a thought from Plato, reflecting about, as I mentioned, the chapter Hopes and Consolations and the duration of future punishments, which is something that we can see that the Enlightened Spirits here, they have a long explanation in order to help humanity to free ourselves from this old way of thinking that we may end up go to the hell and burn forever. And that is what the Enlightened Spirits are helping us to eradicate and understand there is no such a place, no such a reality. We are immortal beings, and we go through learning wherever we are in any situation. So from that onwards, let's move on with Plato. We go through gradually. He starts, continue where we finished last week. Eternal punishment. How could that be? Only if we believe that evil was also eternal. But only God is eternal and could not have created eternal evil. If such were the case, we would have to deny one of the most beautiful divine attributes, supreme power, for God would cease to be supremely powerful the moment he introduced a destructive element into creation. So let's explore what we understand about Plato's thinking here. Why is he starting by saying this paragraph, eternal punishment, and he puts an exclamation point? How could that be? What does he mean? What is he helping us, or what is he challenging us to renew or review in our thinking?
I think he tried to let us think what could be a place of eternal punishment, how God, that is love, doesn't make sense. So he just tried to bring that question for us, like with the Spiritism, we come out of the word of good and evil, and bring of the power of God that is love. So how we're gonna be punishing ourselves eternity for how that could end up.
How could we be punishing eternally ourselves if we depart from the point that God is love? If we depart from the point, the law of evolution. The law of evolution means change, actualization. If we depart from God, who is love, love is the goodness in movement. Therefore, eternal punishment doesn't make sense at all. There is no eternal experience. The experiences are transitory, as we are under the law of progress, under the law of evolution, under the law of God, which is the law of love.
Even the justice would not be from God if everything is eternal.
Yes, if God is good, is love, as we believe, And then the eternal punishment would be against the essence of God, which is love. That doesn't make sense, at least for us. We don't see it in that way. God is love. Therefore, having an idea or a concept that God would punish us forever, that is against the principle that God is love, that he loves us and cares about us. But God is eternal, could not have created eternal evil. How did God create us? Did God create evil?
No.
No. How did God create us?
Simple and ignorant.
Simple and ignorant. We all have been created by God, simple and ignorant, with love, in order to learn to love. So when we do some mistakes, which is part of the learning, we will not be punished, but we will receive new opportunities for us to re-educate ourselves within the major law in the universe, which is love. And we do mistakes merely because we still are in a very primitive or in initial phase in our evolution, which we are much more ignorant than wise. And as more as we learn to understand that we are not a body, we are immortal beings, we are not machines, we are thinking beings, we can re-elaborate our thinking. We can learn to choose to make our experiences in a different way, in a better way. And that is what helps us to evolve and to progress. So in that way, we would not be, let's say, using our time to disturb us in terms of punishment, but using the time that belongs to God in order to promote us as children of God. Evil, we do understand, is just experiences outside of the natural laws. Supreme power for God would cease to be supremely powerful in the moment he introduced destructive element. Supreme power of God, here we understand, it's very important, the supreme power means love, and not the supreme power from an ego state of mind that we sometimes, as beings in evolution, could think that would be power. When we hate, when we are under vengeance, or when we kill each other, that's not power, that is weaknesses of the soul. And in that way, we carry on now, still with Plato. He says, humanity, humanity, no longer immerse your somber plains in the depths of the earth, searching for these punishments. Weep, hope, expiate, and take comfort in the thought of a God who is infinitely good, absolutely powerful, and essentially just. How do we hear Plato's words currently?
I think it's quite leaving the past that we try to search for punishment behind when he say all these words that is God is infinitely good, powerful, and essentially just, because even in human justice, we don't have, I don't know in other places, but at least in our country, don't have to pay for something forever. So how God, that is love, that is good, could make us that for a mistake be punished forever? So it's quite nice that he says our shadows that looking for it and not God.
Precisely. And again, from my perspective, I will see it when he says humanity, humanity, and he puts exclamation point, which means wake up. Yeah. It's almost like a call that Plato is saying, please wake up. Expand your consciousness, understand life from a different perspective. Don't keep in the hell, internally speaking, based on belief systems. Wake up, God is love, absolutely powerful and essentially just. Essentially just, we also are reminded the law of cause and effect, which whatever we do as immortal beings, as learners, if it's against the natural laws, of course, I will attract a new experience for me to learn in a different way, but never to have the reference for eternal punishment. That would be completely against the infinite good and love that God has towards every one of us. We are children of God, incarnates and disincarnates. We are essentially beings of goodness. We may not have reached that level of internal connection because we still are learning. We still are pretty much on the materialistic way of perceiving ourselves. But essentially, we all bring the divine love within ourselves. We all are essentially beings of goodness. Even if we killed each other in the past, we all did mistakes, but we all deserve new opportunities. Merely because we do understand that no one kills anyone. We are all alive. The physical body, if someone kills, that is not the reality, because we as immortal beings have the spiritual body and we keep on alive. Our purpose here, following Plato's suggestion, humanity, he is telling us, expand our minds, choose love, choose goodness, choose forgiveness in order to understand better the universal laws, and that brings hopes and consolations to our minds, to our hearts, as we go through our learning process. The duration of future experiences, let's say hardships or challenges that we all have in our lives, that will depend how much time I have been, let's say, using my free will against the natural flow of life, or how long I need to re-educate myself. And doesn't matter if it takes 1 week, 2 weeks, or 2 years, or 2 existences, as long as I'm embracing the possibility to renew in the present. Then we carry on now with the thought from Paul, some apostle. Would you like to read it for us, Father?
The objective of humankind is to gravitate towards the divine unity. For divine unity to occur, 3 things are necessary: justice, love, and knowledge. There are 3 things that are contrary to and oppose this unity: ignorance, hatred, and injustice. I must tell you that you lie about these fundamental principles when you compromise the idea of God by exaggerating his severity.
Okay. It's interesting to see that the different enlightened spirits, they have different ways of presenting, and it helps us also to look from different perspectives. But after you read, when we start with the first phrase, the objective of humankind is to gravitate towards divine unity. What do we understand? Because Paul goes deep into this.
Yeah.
What is he referring to?
I think it's like Jesus said to us, you are all God. So we can have all these things inside us and go through the evolution of bigger things. It's not just, if you keep in mind, we, with all flaws, cannot think about being us like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So when Paul comes and say, we are going to this path, so how you think about that God is evil?
How do you think about God is evil? How do you think about that God promotes eternal punishment if the objective of humankind is to gravitate towards his, when he says divine unity, for us to connect with that internal superior power? That will be contradictory. But here also, between lines, what came to me is when Paul says the objective of humankind, that means our objective, where we are as beings who are reincarnated on earth, but our objective is not to make money and to fight with each other, but is to learn to elevate ourselves within the greatest power in the universe, which is love, that comes from God. And in that way, as learners, we learn, we restructure ourselves, we re-educate ourselves within the love from God, and sooner or later we promote ourselves, and we are free to reincarnate on earth, because we already reach a different state of mind that promotes us to the level to be on planets of regeneration. And we all have the inner freedom to do that. For divine unity to occur, 3 things are necessary. Now it comes. He starts to say the objective of humanity is moving towards the divine unity. But there are ways, there are conditions. When he said 3 things are necessary: justice, love, and knowledge. How do we understand justice here? Let's go through each of the 3 aspects.
I understand, like you said before, like the law of cause and effect is the justice inside us. It's not by God punishing us. So once we realize that everything we do causes effect, we try to do things. Not gonna say this God that make me doing like that because I did something in the past. So now I'm gonna suffer this time or pass for this experience to learn, and not because God is bad and wants us to suffer.
Yes, the justice here within God's justice is very different than human justice, because human justice can be quite wrong, quite limited, and also quite egocentric or egoistic in a sense. But God's justice, as you refer, is activates the law of cause and effect. What does it mean for us as immortal beings? We have been created simple and ignorant by God, and we bring within us God's laws. One of the faculties that God gives us is the freedom, the way how we think freely. And in that way, the justice now, we learn that whenever we use the faculty of freedom in a responsible way, we activate the law of cause and effect in a constructive way, and we will receive in our lives, our existence, our destinies, positive, constructive effects. If we use it in a negative way, through ignorance, through pride, through selfishness, or simply because we don't know, we have new opportunities in either way for us, again, to redo it now in a different way. So it's almost like bringing the focus and the power back to each individual. As unique beings as we are in the universe, essentially beings of goodness and love, we are more and more, through the law of evolution, reaching closer to the center of ourselves where God's laws already are within us. We are just activating them more in a free will spontaneously. And then another thing that is necessary for us to unite with the divine is love. My question would be, what do we understand about love in this level of evolution where we are? Can we have different definitions of love?
I think we still have a difficult to understand what's love. Because if you think about how Jesus gave his life for us to learn, and we still complaining about everything around us, complaining how life is hard, or everything is something for us to complain. If it's sun, we complain. If it's raining, we complain. So how we understand by love? We still think love is something that people can give to us, and I don't think that is true. So it's kind of a mix up in our minds. At least in mine, it is.
Can people love us? Can we love people?
Yes.
Yes. But if I'm just waiting to be loved, how do I feel?
Just wait to be loved.
Then I'm not loving myself in relation to the love that is referred to here, because that refers to my immaturity.
Yes.
That refers to my lack of self or love. But yes, I would say love, in the way that we are evolving our consciousness, we have different concepts, different ideas, all according to the level of evolution of each individual. We briefly could summarize. We have the reference of love, which is childish. We have the reference of love, which is more on the adolescence level, and we have the reference of love more on the adult level. The majority of us, we still are in the childish position or on the adolescence. Few of us have developed the emotional intelligence towards the adult level. Because when we talk about love here, that refers for us to develop our emotional intelligence as emotional beings as we are. But the great thing is, doesn't matter in which level we are all under the law of progress and evolution, and we all will learn what we haven't learned yet. But it will require for us to go to visit our own internal desert and to navigate through it and to learn to feed us with the love that lies within us on the self level, always, which comes from God. So far, we have been educated or referred to pretty much that what I need comes from the outside. Now we are within the school of Spiritism, which empowers us and tells us that everything what we need, we have already within. We just need to learn to stimulate that. Because when we say and believe we have been created simple and ignorant, which is true, we bring all the internal virtues, the goodness within as germs, which we need to stimulate and develop. Therefore, we will grow in that way.
I have just something. When you said about love, today was an example that I was, someone called me and they started complaining. And because of our study on Monday, first I was like, oh my God, I couldn't start again. And this person is complaining, cannot see that she was complaining about going to a spiritual center, but she was saying, oh, they are selfish because no one called me. No, and I was like, what should I say? Because if I didn't come here and study and everything, I would say, yeah, it's true. And now, because I'm learning, I was like, don't be too strict, because she's not gonna understand. And you come here to make the understand, so don't bring it to you. So it was so difficult to put that in mind on this period that I was like, oh, at least I'm learning that.
Good. Can you see that as soon as you learn, the universe presents you the lesson?
Yes.
Excellent. This is how the universe looks at you. As soon as you learn something new, they present something that we can pass that on, that we can exercise, that we can train, that we can cooperate also for others. That is the beauty of the law of solidarity.
Yes.
We just need to carry on studying and carry on to be aware of ourselves. Otherwise, oh yes, we expand the negativity. Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. And then we saw the three things are, we refer to justice, love, and now knowledge. The objective of humankind is to gravitate towards divine unity. And the three things, one is knowledge. How do we understand that? What is Paul referring to here?
I think the knowledge is about everything, as we studied before, that to become as Jesus, you need to know everything. So it's not true when you say, oh, I already know it, or I don't need to study anymore, because the more you study, the more you realize that it's a lot of things that we don't know. And even if you think we know, we need to put in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the
challenging.
Yes.
It's the most challenging thing for us. Yeah.
So knowledge, I think, is something that you have to be aware, that you have to learn and never stop it.
How could we gravitate towards the divine unity without knowledge? Would that be possible for anyone?
I don't think so.
You don't think? You're not sure then?
No.
As
he said, it's one of the things necessary.
Yes.
So if
it's not possible, how would we gravitate towards the divine unity if you don't know, if you cannot think for ourselves, if you don't know how the universe works, if you don't know how the natural laws work, if you don't know how we work internally, how we interact with the natural laws, is impossible. When we read in the Spiritist book, in a different question, we are referred to the real happy spirits. They know everything about everything. Can you imagine?
No.
It's almost like when we start to think in that way, oh, please give me a break, have some coffee, then we go back and think again, yeah? But we need to carry on. Need in a sense, not as obligation, not in that way. Need in terms of a choice that we are choosing to carry on as we are under the law of evolution. Otherwise, we get stuck for centuries. But even if we choose to do that, we cannot stay stationary forever. Why not? Because God is love and He guides still all of us. But we can choose to move forward quicker instead of going through the suffering pathway. Knowledge is very important. Not important on intellectual level that we feel superior because we know. No. It's knowledge that every spirit in evolution needs to learn to develop from within, because that means natural laws, God's laws. We need to understand about math, we need to understand about physics, we need to understand about chemistry, we need to understand philosophy, we need to understand about religion, of course, actualizing our thinking about psychology, and so on and so forth. That is what Spiritism is helping us, because Spiritism, reflecting on a deeper level, touches on all these different areas of knowledge. And no one, spirits as we are, can move forward through the ignorance. It has to be through the knowledge.
I think what you're saying as well is as more as we learn, more we expand our conscious and we can understand better other things gradually, because we are quite limited, and as less we know, more limited we are to understand. And also when I see that justice, love, and knowledge, they're very strictly correlated to each other, because you can't do justice, or you can't not do, what to say?
You can be just.
You can't be just if you don't love, or if you don't have the knowledge. And you can't love, and you can't say you know what love is if you're not justice. You're not just.
Yes.
You can't be just.
Yes.
And don't have the knowledge.
If I don't know what justice means.
Exactly.
And for me to know what justice means under the natural laws, I need to be willing to study, to get the knowledge, because that will help me to discern, to understand what differs from human justice in relation to God's justice. And without knowledge, I will not learn what laws means, because we are coming from a, let's say, a lower phase as we are moving forward. And quite often, as I just said previously before you came, we have the childish, adolescence, and the adult reference dimensions in terms of law. The majority of us still are in the childish level, which were very dependable on others, which were very needy. That is not the law that is saying here. The law here is referred as a virtue. Justice is referred as virtue. Knowledge is referred as virtue. So it has nothing to do with the ego state of mind. Is that making sense? So this is why we see three virtues here that we conquer, and we move them gradually towards developing the objective of humanity, which we are part, which is to gravitate towards the divine unity. It's very beautiful what the poet is saying here, isn't it? Very profound. And then he carries on. There are three things that are contrary to and oppose this unity: ignorance, hatred, and injustice. How do you understand that? First, he brought what helps us, the three things that helps us to move forward, to gravitate towards the divine unity. Now he's telling us what is contrary.
Again, I think they're very related to each other as well, because as more ignorant we are, more we do injustice and more we hate. Less we can forgive, less we can understand our next one. They're very related, because if I choose to stay in the ignorance, because nowadays I think it's a matter of choice. There's so much and so many ways out there to become knowledgeable. Of course, you're not going to become knowledgeable in everything in one reincarnation, in one existence. But you nowadays, if you compare to the past, where there was no internet, where there was where knowledge before was power, so people used to keep to themselves. But nowadays, no, everyone is very open, and or most people are very open to pass it on what they know. So you choose to stay in the ignorance, and I think as more you choose there, more limited you are, and you see other people doing things and you start hating them because you can't respect their opinion, you can't respect their culture, you can't. So I think it's very related, and that's where you start being injustice as well. You want to do justice with your own hands, and all these many things that we see.
From the indifference, from the cruelty, level onwards. I do have a question. When they say disunity, ignorance, can I be intelligent and be ignorant?
Yes.
How is that?
Because ignorance is a state of mind. It's not if you know things or not. Because it's like when he said knowledge, it's not just the knowledge that you can acquire, but how we're going to do with it. If you have a lot of knowledge and think, oh, now I am powerful, as I said, I am supreme, and not realize that you don't know anything yet with our level that we are in Earth. It's impossible to know everything. And even the small things we know, we can be very ignorant and think that, oh, I know how it's work. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in love, because I know some people that are like that. They think because they are scientists or they know things, they are better than others. And I think is that why Paul said the three things that are necessary and the things contrary to, because if you think just about what are necessary, people can think, oh, I can be like that, but forget that other things contribute to not be like that as well.
Correct. If you look within the evolution of humanity, what predominated so far? The intellectual, the emotional, or the spiritual intelligence?
The intellectual.
Intellectual. So what happened then?
We're becoming very intelligent, capable of doing and creating a lot of things, but we don't know what's love and what is justice.
So
because they're not going together.
Precisely. So we become very intellectualized. We know a lot of knowledge. That is the first phase where we need to learn, and we all need to go through that. It's nothing against. But if we don't choose to develop our emotional intelligence, which is to soothe our heart, to develop our love within, then the knowledge that we may have, we may use it against the natural laws and against ourselves. In that way, we are unjust. We hate people, those who don't think as we do. We think that we are the most wise person in the world, because when we have that tendency, it shows that we are very ignorant indeed, because we learn with the great thinkers and philosophers. Those who know really something, they usually say, as Socrates did, everything what I know is that I don't know. So we learn. Those who are humble, which is the development of emotional intelligence, they recognize their limitation in relation to the power of God, not the power in terms of superiority, the power which is love, where we are and how much we still have to conquer. So it's nothing wrong in developing our intellectual intelligence, which we need to, but as long as we are willing to go beyond the intellectual aspect, because otherwise we can be very intellectualized but not intelligent.
And also what I do with that intelligence, because I can use it for bad things. So if I think with the new generation come, we can see even the small kids, they know things and they try to put for the world. It's not something that they want to do for their families. Is I want a better world, I want to make good things. So you can see already in the new generation, and if you take someone from not really old, but 45, they cannot think the same way as this child. So it's not just intelligence or learning things, because you can have kids that already have a step further on the emotional level that intelligent people maybe not.
Yes, it reminds me of the other question in the Spiritist book: why cannot reason be infallible? And then the Enlightened Spirits Teachings, because that comes pretty much into here. Because of ignorance, selfishness, and kindness. So we, throughout our journey, we developed more the intellectual intelligence and not the emotional intelligence. So we know how things work, but without emotional intelligence, which means without morality, we use it for the wrong, for the evil. And as we can see, even these days on earth, creating violence, crimes, death, and we use it against God's will, let's say it. Sooner or later, we will all understand that that is a great mistake, because whatever we do to others, we are doing to ourselves. And then we need to come back and redo. We are intelligent beings in the universe, created by God, for us to develop our faculty of intelligence, of love, in terms of developing the real values, the real justice that comes from God, that use the knowledge in relation to goodness, in relation to the universal fraternity, as you just mentioned, the new generation. Their language is pretty much, I want to do good for humanity. I want to do good to help people in need. So it's almost about we, it's no longer I. So it's very different. In general, that is what comes. But we don't need to wait the new generation to take over. We can also do something in our generation. As long as we are studying, we can do that. And then finally, Paul says, I must tell you that you lie about these fundamental principles when you compromise the idea of God by exaggerating his severity. What is Paul trying to teach us?
I think for a long time we think about God that is, even after Jesus came and he said God is love, we still think God is someone that punish us, and that is 2000
More than 2,000 years.
more than 2000 years, and how that book was written 150 years ago, and we still think like that God is severe and gonna punish us, and even worse, forever. So he come and say, look, why you exaggerating this? Why you try to make God bad? Is what I can see. Why people try to make God like a bad thing and say that, oh, you're gonna be punished for eternity.
It's interesting, in my way, he's very, very objective. Listen, I must tell you that you lie about these fundamental principles. Very straightforward, very objective. All of you, humankind, who says that God is severe and punishes, you are lying about the fundamental principles. Fundamental principle, God is love. Therefore, we would be lying, like Paul is saying, if you say, well, if you do this, you will end up eternally in the hell, in the fire of the hell. No, Paul is very clear here. I must tell you that you lie about these fundamental principles. He's very objective. He's not leaving any doubt about them. So revising our thinking, always bear in mind that God, the creator of everything and everyone, is love. And love, which is the greatest power in the universe, which moves everything and everyone in the universe forward, never backwards, forward, always for better situations, always in a loving way. I think, knowing, as Paul said, that God loves us and never would punish us, that means that when we feel that God punishes us, that is our own consciousness who did something wrong, that we bring the laws within, that punishes us. And that also needs to be revised, because that is not a way of cooperating towards the law of evolution, towards our own progress. Because God doesn't want us to think in a guilty, punished way when we do mistakes, but yes, embrace us and learn from the mistakes so that we learn to do things differently. Okay? Now is Paul, we still carry on with Paul's thought. Thais, would you like to read it for us, please?
Furthermore, you doubtfully compromise it when you allow the spirit of the creature to think that creature itself possesses more clemency, gentleness, love, and true justice than you attribute to the infinite being.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to comment?
I think, to me, I see even the last paragraph in this one as like Paul is in front of me, like shaking, and I was like, come on, think what you're saying, because if you're telling me that it's fundamental to get to near the divine, to love, to justice and knowledge, how can you be so controversial and then you say, no, you made a mistake, or I made a mistake, I'm going to be staying guilty, and I'm going to punish myself, or I'm going to punish someone else because of that mistake. I'm going to go to hell, I'm going to burn there, whatever I believe that God is going to punish me. And also, he's saying here that I'm a creature, I was created by God, and then I started to think that I myself can be the creator. I'm as good as the creator. I'm as perfect as the creator. I can love as the creator. So it's just saying, come on, just look at yourself. What are you saying? You know, for me, that's how it comes.
Put yourself in your place,
Yes,
isn't it?
exactly.
It's not that it means in a diminished place,
No.
but as creature in relation to the Creator. Creator is love, and then again, gentleness, love, and true justice, then you attribute to the infinite being. It's almost like, yes, I would say, yes, society is really like Paul saying, wake up, humanity, start to think. It's almost like they are sleeping, they cannot think. We condition ourselves and we choose repeating an automatic pilot. Because when we start to think, we really say, oh my God, it doesn't make sense at all.
And so many times I find myself thinking that I'm doing justice, or I'm doing justice to something, even to me, and then it's like, hold on a minute, am I really doing justice? What can I see today I couldn't see yesterday? And what I was doing yesterday, I thought it was right, today I think it's wrong. So I have to take it easy and don't think that I know everything, or just because I'm a little bit better today, then wow. So to me, as that, it's an alert that
Yes.
to put myself in my place, not diminishing myself, but as a learning, process, and be humble enough to know that yes, I'm better than yesterday, but I'll be better tomorrow. So and that goes on and on. So yeah.
So it's really in that learning position to learn to be humble. That yes, my studies, my knowledge, my reflections today will be according to my understanding today. So my viewpoints will be back on how do I understand it today, understanding that tomorrow will be different because we are evolving. And even if I realize that we did something wrong, as you said, ourselves and all of those who may be here in the spirit, there's no reason under God's laws to blame ourselves and to feel guilty, to depress ourselves. We all are doing mistakes and all did. So when we realize that we did, it's time to stand up, take responsibility, which is internal autonomy, and choose to do better. Because we are choosing to develop the aspects of the good being, the seeds that we all bring within. Still is Paul, let's carry on. You destroy the very idea of hell by rendering it as a ridiculous and unacceptable to your minds as the horrendous spectacle of the executions, the burnings at the stake, and the tortures of the Middle Ages is to your hearts. At a time when blind reprisals have been forever banished from human laws, do you expect to uphold them as an ideal? How do we understand here now Paul's thought? What is he trying to communicate to us? What comes to our minds? Is he referring what happened already?
Yes.
Yeah?
When I talk about the tortures or Middle Ages, I think about when the church, I'm not saying, not against the church, but how tortures and things that took place during the Crusades, that how you can think that you're going to suffer in hell like that forever. How you can think that is something that God creates. For me, come like a very,
Heavy?
yeah, it's something that I cannot even imagine. I cannot even watch movies like that because for me it's unacceptable. Like I said, it's how in your mind can have something like that. It's kind of, cannot think. Some person who make a mistake went against the law of God, go to a place like that. It's too much for me.
I think it's going back a little bit to what we were mentioning before, our progression as we understand things, or as our conscience expand, we start in understanding better. And in the Middle Ages, there was for us the right thing to do, but today we have destroyed that type of thing, of belief. For us, if someone now starts saying, "Oh, we're gonna burn you because you can see spirits, you can talk to spirits," for us, it's something that it's completely, even for the human law, is not acceptable anymore. But in the Middle Age, that was the law, that was the right, not right, but that's what we believed it was right. That's when we were talking about justice. Today, to me, justice is one thing. Tomorrow is going to be something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when he is questioning us at the same as the last paragraph, saying we expect to behold them as ideal. So it brings to me again to think and again, what do I believe today, or what do I understand? Not even believe, what do I understand today? Don't take it as the final truth, because tomorrow I'll understand better. So it is not to me to judge someone because they don't understand or they don't see as I see, because who is to know that what I see is what is really there? Tomorrow I might see it different. So,
Okay. Are you okay? Yes, very good. Still, Paul continues. Believe me, brothers and sisters in God and in Jesus Christ. Believe me and either resign yourself to letting all the dogmas of your dogmas you hold to be inalterable perish in your hands, or breathe new life into them by opening them up to the benevolent explanations good spirits are now giving concerning them. How do we understand that? Paul is really very deep in his.
I think all the heaviness that he bring before now come like light and make you think like it's just if you studying the law of God and how things can be easy, can be go to another path as the good spirits bring it to us. So it's a consolation, is what we're studying. It's kind of, instead of think about, oh, I'm gonna burn in hell, or things like that, come what Jesus said, the consolation, we're gonna come and bring us a life that is not heavy at all. It's au contraire, it's much better if we go to a good path.
I think it's so beautiful when you say, believe me, and either resign yourselves to letting all the dogmas you hold to be unalterable perish in your hands, or breathe new life. That is just, wow. It's like you said, it's taking all the happiness away from our shoulders and giving a lot of consolations, because it's just saying, keep an open mind. Forget all that preconceived beliefs that you have about everything, and just breathe new life, as we say, and be open to learn, be open to progress, to learn how to love, how to be just, as how to just love knowledge, keep studying, and we were not giving the whole truth because we can't understand the whole truth yet. Even Jesus, when he came, he didn't say everything he couldn't say because we wouldn't understand. And even 2,000 years is gone and we still perish to understand what he said at that time. Imagine if he said everything. We can't even understand the material things. Imagine the spiritual things. So I think we just have to keep an open mind and we respect that.
It's also saying that be mindful of your expectations.
Precisely.
Your belief can be an expectation.
Precisely. And anything else? Because we come, that was a very good point, because we all come from previous existences, previous experiences through spirituality or religiosity that we went through, and we may still have on our unconscious mind belief systems or values, concepts that still we may have expectations here which are not real, not in accordance of this evolution pathway. So as more as we study in a loving way, more we comprehend, more we understand, more we choose really to flexibilize ourselves, as you well said. What I do understand today, surely, even evolving tomorrow, we'll think differently. So our study, our reflections are based on what do we understand now, today, tomorrow, may be changing. And whatever happened in our existences, there is no reason for us to keep on centuries and centuries in hating others because we did a lot of mistakes in the past. But Paul is suggesting, let go. Be lighter within. Choose to learn from the mistakes. Change the way that you believe. In case someone did wrong, let's forgive. We have a way out to freeing ourselves from that heaviness and try to do good and really be receptive in new ways of analyzing ourselves, evaluating life and experiences. Because under God's laws, there is always hope through the learning process, and there is always consolation because we do understand that the experiences, they are transitory. And then carry on, still with Paul. The idea of hell with its glowing furnaces and boiling cauldrons might be tolerated or admissible in a mythological age. In the 19th century, however, it is nothing more than an empty phantom that only serves to frighten little children who will no longer believe in it once they have grown up.
Nowadays, there's children that don't even wait to grow up. They just don't believe it.
Did you say what you're talking about, Mom? It doesn't make sense what you're saying.
So, I was just going to say, I think that hell is true in the sense that your habitual tendency has to be present fire within you. Otherwise, they live. So it's not an easy process to transmute the old patterns. It's like a fire, it's like a fire, and it's like out. So, but in this sense, obviously, there's an idea of knowledge, which is another projection.
It is, as more as we in light or ignorance, as beings in evolution, more we free ourselves, as we went through previously with Plato also. Humanity, wake up, lighting up the ideas. Then, as I said, through enlightening our minds and hearts, we override our old way of thinking, old way of perceiving the experiences. And that is part simply in the progress of evolving.
This is in the Bible, it says, before the cleansing comes to fire.
Yes, that means when we translate it, yes, it says, it is not the same words, but similar for sure. The way that we understand it is the fire means the internal crisis, the internal cleansing. So we enter and go through phases of crisis, psychological and emotionally speaking, because we keep the old ways of thinking through the old systems that we went through on our unconscious level. Now through the conscious level, we are receiving the new information, and that sometimes clashes with the old way of thinking, the new way. And then we go through this transitory phase of crisis, which actually is healthy. It's not comfortable. Up to the point that we adjust our system through the new in studying, reflecting, up to the point that we internalize that. Yes, we see it as a positive thing.
It's like a re-collaboration.
Precisely.
It needs time.
It needs, and it's different. The time is different for every spirit, for every one of us. Merely because we have been created simple and ignorant, but since that onwards, we used, from the human kingdom onward, we used our free will in a different way. For some people may take one level of time, others more or less, doesn't matter. The main point is that we engage in our actualization process.
I think it's important to remember not to be too hard on yourself, because as soon as something is not changing what you want to change, you can go into the negative phase by being too serious.
Yes.
And that doesn't help.
That usually has to do with our perfectionism. And then we learn something new and we want immediately that our nature already incorporates that, and we forget that we have centuries and centuries of conditioning there. So once we change from the perfectionism, understanding that we are loving beings in essence, imperfect, perfecting, and gradually, which is part of self-love, part of self-respect, part of self-acceptance, then we do the best that we could do on the self-level onwards every day, and we carry on in that way. Because really, we can just do in the best that we can every day. Because when we talk about the law of evolution, the law of progress, we are thinking perhaps, oh, up there. No, it's here, in the present, every moment. Give the best that we can. Not the best from a, let's say, procrastinating state of mind, but the best sincerity that I can do in my ability to the present. Yeah? Otherwise, we would be working against us. We become painless, and it doesn't help. Then I still move on with Paul. If you perish in such a frightening mythology, you will engender disbelief, the origin of every sort of social upheaval. I tremble at the idea of an entire social order, shaking and crumbling upon its very foundations for lack of a penal sanction. What is Paul referring here as he carries on within the chapter Hopes and Consolations and the question 1009 under the subtitle The Duration of Future Punishment? What is he referring here? So,
To me, it comes to the blind faith, because on the first problem that I'll encounter, I won't be able to go through that with my beliefs. If I believe that I will perish in hell, and then I have, well, we all have challenges in life, trouble in life, and then I want to see God as love and forgiveness, but I'll perish in hell. It clashes in that. So my blind faith won't get me through that trouble. So I think that's when it says, I tremble at the idea of an entire social order shaking and crumbling upon its foundations. So my foundation is very weak. It's not based in reasoning. It's just gonna.
It's just knowledge on the intellectual level, but we haven't learned to reason about it. Yeah? We repeat it, we read it, and we repeat it in a literal way without understanding what it means, isn't it? Then, when we go through challenging moments, which we all go through as tests in order to promote ourselves, if that is the level where we are, we won't have internal support to testify that.
I think it's unfortunate because that's where most people that are great believers, from one day to the other, just believe, start being great disbelievers. Because there's no reason to where they believe until they open their eyes and say, no, that was all a lie. That was like, because look where I am now, and where is that God?
That is a fanatism.
Foundation in essence is not weak, but the foundation that we're used to has to give way to discover our strength. Because we are in essence are not being from a fragile foundation.
No, in essence, we are loving, good, peaceful beings because we have been created by God and we bring all the seeds of inner strength. But what we built so far, that is weak. That reality needs to be crumbled, needs to be shaken, needs to be changed. Most of it, yes? And that is why we are under the process of evolution through the law of reincarnation. And through each existence, through the different existences, because we are always in a learning position, in a way or another, we are re-evaluating and choosing now through the reason level onwards to evaluate and to think for ourselves. And in that way, we are actualizing ourselves. We are coming more towards the center of ourselves. The center, the core of ourselves is love, and is divine love, is mature love, is not the infantile love. That is what frees us, yeah? In that way, we are coming to the end today in our studies, and as always, we finalize it with our final prayer in these special, unique moments in our existences, where we have been granted the possibility and the opportunity for us to be together, as brothers and sisters in humanity, incarnates in all of those in the spirit who are with us, to reflect about the love of God, who created us with love in order for us to learn to love. So the purpose of our existence is to learn to love ourselves as loving beings essentially beyond all, is to learn others as brothers and sisters in humanity, is to develop the ability to be good within and without, is to strengthen ourselves within the law of justice, the divine justice, which is full of goodness, helping us to understand that we all are essentially beings of goodness, granted the possibility in every moment to expand the goodness within through the natural experiences that we undergo in our daily existence. May we all choose to be better today than yesterday, and tomorrow better than today. Expand the divine love within, choosing freely and spontaneously to forgive more, to tolerate more, to want more towards the goodness of everyone, as a free choice, and in that way, feeling lightened from within and feeling more in peace, today and always. So